Hi, I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to hypnocoaching, the hypnotic arts and sciences generally, and spirituality. Now, if you'd like to know more about my professional work, and I kind of hope you do, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today, I want to talk about living with purpose. Now, some of you may recognize in this title an echo of the book The Purpose Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren of Saddleback Church, a Baptist megachurch, which has its primary campus in Lake Forest, California. That's intentional. The book came out in 2002. It's still very much in print, very popular, and there are many expanded materials about it. Now, whenever something is that popular, I always want to take a look at it because there's something there I want to understand. And what I think I get from Rick Warren's work is that people are looking for a purpose to have in their life. Now, I think Reverend Warren's recommendations in his books are fine, and anyone who decides to order his or her life in accordance with his 5 godly purposes for living will have a fine and happy life. I see nothing wrong with them. Warren's 5 purposes are first, worship, because he believes it brings pleasure to God. So you set your life up to make God happy, as Rick Warren understands that. Second, unselfishly loving. Now, this strikes me as a really noble purpose, and it isn't too different from a phrase batted around in my own religious denomination when we say we strive to create the beloved community. However, what we mean by the beloved community is all life on earth. As you read Warren's book, you can see that his scope is a little bit more limited, unselfishly loving fellow members of God's family. Now, I believe Warren himself, if we put him on the spot, would probably say that that really refers to all people. But I've seen some pastors of local churches doing 30 days of purpose programs in their congregations who limit that to only church members, a chauvinistic misreading. You're supposed to love other church members and everyone else can go to blazes. I don't think that's right. The third purpose is to become more like Jesus. The problem I have with this one is that there isn't a whole lot of agreement among religious thinkers about exactly what it means. Is your Jesus image someone who loves everyone? Or is your Jesus image someone who only loves people who live in a certain way? Do you embrace universal salvation, or do you think that some people are condemned to hell? This is not a small matter. Wars have been fought over this, so it's problematic. In my own case, I think that his argument would be stronger if he said, try to be good. Strive to be good as you understand goodness and morality. It would certainly be simpler. The fourth purpose is to serve others. That is, to find a calling of some sort where your life is of use to the human community. That is to say, it's a ministry. I can give this one a yay saying because one of the whole themes of the Protestant Reformation, at the very least, is that everyone can understand themselves as having some sort of calling for their life from God, a higher power, your inner self, whatever. Even if you're a maintenance worker, your work is just as valuable to the human enterprise as the work of anyone else. Finally, Warren's final purpose is mission. Now, as he understands that, he argues that your purpose to serve others, your ministry, is really intended to be only to other Christian believers, while your mission is to spread the word of love to non-believers. Well, he's entitled to his opinion. Personally, I don't divide people up into camps of believers and non-believers, and I think that's something of a false dichotomy. People believe all sorts of things with varying degrees of conviction, so it's really hard to make sharp distinctions. I just think of people as people and strive to be of use to the human enterprise, indeed to the enterprise of all life on earth. I don't see how we benefit by dividing people up into sheep and goats with different rules for each, but that's just my opinion. Now, I basically like what Reverend Warren has put together, although obviously I disagree with some of his five purposes. But he's got his finger on the theme that people are looking for purpose. Now, breaking living with a sense of purpose into discrete steps and kinds strikes me as very artificial and easy to misunderstand. It's not what I do. For me, people who are living their lives with purpose are simply people who pretty much know what they are about. I think knowing what you are about, what you want for your life, is immensely important. And the happiest people are those who have given it some thought. The problem is that a lot of people have not given that any thought. They just assume a purpose from their culture or family, and it isn't really what they want. When I talk to people about their occupations, they often will give me occupational choices. They will give me very pedestrian and standard things. And I'll say, hey, there are people out there making great lives as lion tamers or wrestling alligators or pythons in Florida. Uh, you can have a great life outside the box if that's what you really want. And you diminish yourself by never considering what you actually might want. One of the questions I ask clients as I'm getting to know them is, what are your ambitions? That is, if all goes well, what do you want from your life? Now, sometimes I do get thoughtful answers to this question, but a lot of the time I don't. I get answers like, well, I want to be rich, or I want to make a lot of money. Now, to my ears, this is a mistake. And it's pretty easy to nudge a client into understanding the mistake they're making. I mean, if your life goal really is just to make a lot of money, then perhaps you should become a drug dealer because they make a ton of money. Yeah, there are some occupational hazards, but the brutal reality, if you talk to any law enforcement officer, is that most drug dealers actually get away with it. So if money is really your ultimate goal, that'd be a way. When the client kind of sputters in shock that they would never deal drugs, then that allows me the opportunity to point out that their response shows that making a lot of money really isn't the ultimate goal. There is some other value held that brings the idea of being a drug dealer under judgment and causes it to be rejected. That value is what points to a person's real purpose. Why don't you want to make a lot of money doing crimes if you're unlikely to be caught doing them? Then we start hearing about the concerns of helping others, of being a decent person, and the real goals of living with purpose for that person. So how about you? What's your ambition? And then ask yourself why. And the logic of why will help you discover what is really fundamental for you. And you can get surprised. I did. When I did this, I discovered my life purpose was to be a fine craftsperson. Now, I'm not talking about a manual trade or art form. I'm talking about doing my work with a high sense of pride in the individual product I produce. At one time, I was a cook and later a chef. I tried to craft every plate to the best of my ability, and I loved it. At the end of the long shift, I would go home feeling fulfilled. But then I got promoted. All of a sudden, I wasn't cooking anymore. I was supervising cooks. And I quickly realized that while I love cooking, I dislike supervising. I'd lost my purpose. Then I felt my call to ministry. I went to school and trained and became a parish minister. At first, I was happy. And then I moved up to a larger multi-staff congregation, and all of a sudden I wasn't doing ministry anymore. I was supervising people who were doing ministry. I dislike supervising. Once again, I'd lost my purpose. So when more than 30 years ago now, I decided to cross from parish ministry into community ministry, which is what my nonprofit pastoral practice of medical hypnotism is considered, I made myself a promise. It was not going to happen to me again. I would not let my hypnotism practice grow to the point where I needed to add staff, and I ended up supervising hypnotists instead of doing hypnotism, crafting the end result for the client. 6 times over the arc of my hypnotic career, I have intentionally taken steps to limit my practice so that it continues to meet my life's purpose. I am a craftsperson. I want to do the work and do it to the best of my ability and take pride in what I have produced. I do not want to spend my time supervising other people who are really having all the fun. So what is your life purpose? How can you guard it so that you live it and don't allow others or situations to take it away from you, which happened to me twice? Figuring that out is important. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Stay well and stay safe.